Honorable nominee, you, in an interview with CTFM in January last year, maybe I should start from before that. You, in an interview responding to Honorable Arthur Kennedy's call on Nana Akufo-Addo, His Excellency the President, to rein in his insulting supporters, who, in his view, were responsible for some disturbances in the NPP, in the lead-up to the primaries of the NPP, said, and I quote, "There's only one person on earth who has a license duty signed by Nana Akufo-Addo to speak on his behalf. Nana Akufo-Addo is responsible only for his unguarded pronouncements, and that person is Mustapha Hamid," unquote. Now, moving on, last year, in another interview with CTFM, you said of your boss about the Gitmo 3 that he wanted the detainees returned because it was wrong for the government at the time to receive them. When will he return them?
Mr. Chairman, I am not too sure he would return them because at that time he was an opposition candidate. He didn't have the power to return Gitmo detainees.
So now that he has the power, what will be the minister's advice to
Mr. Chairman, I said that my fundamental premise is that I don't quite remember, but guaranteed that I said that. Now that he has the power, I guess that he has the power to relook at the negotiation, and then he will take a decision.
Have he given you any information as to whether or not he will return them?
No.
Chairman, will you further advise a nominee that he is not responsible for matters of foreign affairs and matters relative to national security? He should not chew more than he can bite.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not responsible.
Well, I was about to say the chairman can be a good NADMO coordinator. He knows how to rescue during disaster moments, but I think the Honorable Minority Leader also came to the rescue. So
I am the chairman and I regulate the proceedings. NADMO is for falling buildings and rivers.
Okay. Honorable nominee, again, you have been very active in the media. So on November 24th, on the Joy FM program, you said in response to an article, His Excellency, Ghana's ambassador to, sorry, the name just escaped me. No, not information. Okay, I'm trying to remember the country. I can't immediately. A former editor of the Accra Daily Mail, Harunata. Thank you. Namibia. In your discussion of that article that he wrote in November, you said, in reference to His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, that, quote, "He is an unrepentant ethnic bigot." And went further to say that the article was meant to put Nana Addo at par with, quote, "an avowed ethnicist like Mr. Mahama." Now, for the benefit of our viewers, a bigot is one who regards or treats members of a group with hatred or intolerance. An ethnicist is a person who believes a particular ethnicity is superior to others. The question now is, can you give examples of President Mahama's conduct as president that made him an unrepentant ethnic bigot or an ethnicist in your view?
Mr. Chairman, I guess that these things were said in rebuttal to the NDC tagging my candidate at that time as an ethnic bigot. So, Mr. Chairman, I guess that under the circumstances, I thought that it was okay to say that you are the opposite candidate is and not us. And that's the context in which I said that.
Now, sitting here as a Minister of State, would you use the same language to describe either your opponent or your president?
Mr. Chairman, certainly not.
Chairman, to Mr. Nominee, the Constitution of Ghana abhors matters of tribalism and ethnocentrism. Do you regret those comments?
Mr. Chairman, I regret the polluted political environment that enables people from both sides of the political divide to throw such invectives into the public space and poison the atmosphere. I regret that environment very much. If by your grace I am minister, inshallah, I shall work to rid our environment of such pollution. I promise you that, Mr. Chairman.
Such invectives, is that your commitment?
Yes, that I will. My commitment is that, first of all,
including those that are likely to be manufactured by you, is that
Mr. Chairman, I would not manufacture stuff. I will not. I promise you that. Mr. Chairman, I want to reiterate that I will contribute my quota in ensuring that we have a sane environment, a sane political environment where we are not insulting and attacking each other and mudslinging one another. I will try my best to create that atmosphere.
All right, I wish you well. I don't know how much you have been briefed, but I do know of issues of workers at GNA and the Information Services Department where they are made to pay before they even get promotions, and many of them have complained about it. If you have been briefed, how will you address it? If not, if you haven't been briefed yet, what is your assurance that when you get there, you will rectify that situation and make sure that you work in the interest of the workers at these agencies?
Mr. Chairman, this is the first time that I'm hearing that any such thing exists. Mr. Chairman, I want to believe that the civil service of Ghana has rules of promotion. And if by your grace I am Minister for Information, I would ensure that agencies under my ministry abide to those standards.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And Honorable Mustapha Hamid, Minister Designate for Information, congratulations. I must put on record that we're very proud that His Excellency the President we're very proud that His Excellency the President has appointed you. More so, many of us drew inspiration from your leadership in the youth wing, and through interactions you eventually poached us to work, and we worked, and I eventually sat on the chair as a National Youth Organizer of the party. I'm so proud that the party has finally given you this. Yes, indeed. Indeed, and I'm here as MP to vet him. Thank you very much. But a very important issue, as the Ministry of Information, do you think that your role as Minister of Information will conflict your role as spokesperson for the President?
Mr. Chairman, I don't think so. Mr. Chairman, in my view, the President is the embodiment of the government. In other words, it is his vision and philosophy that drives government. And therefore, I want to believe that they are one and the same principle. Rather, I would have thought that having a spokesperson for the President and then also a Minister for Information is rather what would create conflict as to who speaks on what and so on. But when it's unified, the way that the President has arranged it, I think that it will bring focus to the spokesmanship.
Chairman, I have a difficulty appreciating what the nominee have just said in response to the Honorable Kago For all intents and purposes, we have a letter signed by President Nana Addo dated 17th January 2017, and it reads, in reference to you, Mr. Mustapha Hamid, Minister for Information, nothing more. We are unable to recognize a certain portfolio you had 10 years ago being intertwined today. As far for our purposes and for the record, you are the President's Minister for Information. I just thought that we should clarify that. If the President wanted, he should have added and presidential spokesperson. Then we could accommodate you on those two legs.
Mr. Chairman, that saves me a lot of trouble.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My second question has to do with the ministry. Is the Ministry of Information relevant in the 21st century where everybody has access to information through our mobile phones and various media channels? I mean, is the ministry really that important?
Mr. Chairman, I think that the Ministry of Information is very important. It is very important in the sense that the difference between free democratic societies and societies that are undemocratic and not free is that under authoritarian societies, information is controlled, it is muscled. Citizens do not have access to government information and what their government is doing, and citizens don't have a way of giving government feedback. But in our democratic dispensation, a Ministry of Information is important in order to give timeous, accurate, and truthful information to the citizenry on how the governance process is going, and also to receive feedback from the citizens that will inform government programs and projects. And so to that extent, I think that it is still very relevant even in the 21st century.
My last question has to do with the Ghana Publishing Company. And the understanding is that government departments and agencies must give a certain quota of their printing to the Ghana Publishing Company. As minister, I'm sure you would have been briefed. What is the state of the Ghana Publishing Company, and what are you going to do to improve, make sure that it is back on its feet?
Mr. Chairman, the Ghana Publishing Company as of today is not in a very good place. And it is not in a good place largely because it doesn't have the machinery for being competitive on the market. And therefore, what I would do, inshallah, if by your permission I am allowed to be minister, is that we would find avenues for retooling the Ghana Publishing Company. They have briefed me to the effect that they have a machine that is only called a 3-color printer. But I understand that the trend now is towards a 5-color or even 6-color printer. So looks like they are way behind in terms of the correct machinery that they need in order to be competitive. So first of all, I will try as minister to be able to raise the required funding for them to retool. Once they retool, then we can appeal to other ministries and government agencies to give them the jobs. Because now, even if they are given the jobs, they don't have the capacity to do quality work.
Honorable Kuzatala.
I'm grateful, Mr. Chairman. My first question will be taken from an interview you granted City FM on the 13th of January 2017. And that was after you were named as Minister for Information. You told the host of Point Blank that you will have wished that His Excellency the President gave you another responsibility. Some have thought that that statement you made was unfortunate, and some of us also thought that perhaps you may even be declining the nomination or the appointment. Can we be assured now that you are settled to carry out this responsibility, this onerous responsibility, and can we be assured that you will give it your all and do a good job in the interest of Ghana?
Mr. Chairman, I am excited to do this job. Very, very excited. Inshallah, I shall do my best.
And Chairman, sorry, Honorable Ablakwa, you wholeheartedly, for a President of the Republic to recognize you among 27 million Ghanaians, to play a lead role and a frontal role. Chairman will translate that for you to be his, is it a chairman they call them? Yeah. Yes. To be the President's Minister for Information. The public kind of construed, rightly or wrongly, that you were expressing regret of that particular portfolio. Do you still stand by that, or probably after a second thought? And as minister, you are Minister of the Republic. Do you regret those comments?
Mr. Chairman, I regret the way that it was understood. Because in communication, sometimes you say one thing and people understand it. It was completely misunderstood. And to reiterate the point, I am very excited. I'm over the moon.
Now, if it's excited, can you just qualify it and deeply regret that I created the impression that it was not a worthy portfolio?
Thank you for your suggestions, but his answer is sufficient. Please, next question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Now that we know that you are excited and over the moon and committed to the job, let's come to the sector now. Digital migration is in its third and final phase. This was spearheaded under the previous Ministry of Communication, which was a ministry which the President put together information and communication into one. So the Ministry of Communication took over the functions of the previous Ministry of Information, which had been separate before the two ministries were combined. Now, my question is, looking at what is left for the final stages of digital migration, which has to do with signal transmission, distribution, the supply of set-top boxes, especially to needy households and all of that, will you argue that this final phase of digital migration should be brought to the Ministry of Information, should be relocated to the Ministry of Information, taken away from the Ministry of Communication, since obviously what will be happening matters that border on the mandate of the Ministry of Information?
Well, Mr. Chairman, frankly speaking, I haven't veered my mind as to arguments for if it would be in the Ministry of Information or at the Ministry of Communication. Be that as it may, as if by your permission I am Minister for Information, what I will care about is how we accelerate the process towards meeting the September deadline for going completely digital. And to that extent, I think that once there's room for collaboration between myself and the Minister for Communication, I think that we can still work in tandem to ensure that the timetable is met without necessarily angling over whether it should come to the Ministry of Information or not.
My final question, the Information Services Department. It's a very, very important agency under the ministry. Some have argued that it is a colonial relic and it should probably be closed down. I take a different view. Having worked at the Ministry of Information for 4 years, I know what they are capable of. They have some of the finest historians and researchers and PROs in that department. What will be your vision for the ISD in terms of modernizing the ISD, modernizing their operations, resourcing them, and making sure that they really become, the writers and Associated Press and all of those agencies that we have seen in other parts of the world, where their information service department are well equipped, well resourced, and do provide education and inform their populace, and so create enlightenment for the forward march of countries. What is your vision for the ISD?
Well, Mr. Chairman, the Information Services Department have briefed me to the effect that they are heavily under-resourced. That's what they say. They say that they don't have the information vans anymore. They all have virtually broken down, so they are unable to anymore do their village and community outreach programs. They say that they don't have computers and monitors to be able to receive news from across the country and even abroad and so on. So almost like the case of the Ghana publishing company that the Honorable Cabo asked about, I think that we would need to re-engineer the Information Services Department, retool it, and I believe that the men and women who are in there have the capacity to do a good job. And by your grace, if I am Minister for Information, I would ensure that that is done, because that is the bedrock of the ministry. And once that foundation is broken, the entire ministry is broken. So I'll do my best, inshallah.
Okay, thank you. I think you are not recognized. I don't recognize you. Now we'll come to leadership, please.
I thought the Honorable Jato was making an application, but be as it may, the Honorable Mustapha Hamid, you know, hitherto I thought you were older than me, so today it appears that I'm older, so I can call you my younger brother. When I attempted to rectify your CV, you were insistent. By my record, Nana Addo Dankwa resigned as minister in the Kufuor administration in 2007. Is that not the case?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that is the case. But we began the preparatory ground towards his resignation and coming full-time in 2006.
That was on President Kufuor's blind side. But what I'm trying to lead you on to is, you have indicated in your CV very strongly, and you see, this is a committee of record. So,
Mr. Chairman, let's amend it to 2007.
Perfect. Now you are talking so that we can.
Let's amend it.
A period when we were testing the grounds, in the words of President Kufuor, it should not be counted.
And Mr. Chairman, I don't know whether I can also take the liberty with the Honorable Haruna Idrisu to ask that the part about my forthcoming papers be expunged.
Well, noted.
Chairman, the nominee will be responsible for government information, and given his background, he understands feedback. If you have a senior government official say that 7 billion of Ghana money missing, nobody is arrested, nobody is being prosecuted, nobody is being interrogated, for choice of words when he could have said is arrears or money subject to expenditure, should we believe that you will be fair to the Ghanaian people with accurate, timely information?
Mr. Chairman, at the risk of not sounding boastful, I must say that
sorry, the question was, will you be forthcoming? Just keep yourself to the ignore the prelims, please.
It is my commitment to be honest with the Ghanaian people.
Honorable nominee, the previous administration set up the Media Development Fund, which was intended to build the capacities and sharpen the delivery of media practitioners. What do you intend to do with the fund to improve it for the benefit of our journalists?
Mr. Chairman, from the briefings that I've received from the various sectors under the ministry, they say that capacity building is one of the major challenges. And therefore, I would commit some of the funds, inshallah, if I'm minister, to building the capacity of our journalists to be able to do their work better.
Can you just elaborate in 1 or 2 lines your vision for the Ministry of Information?
Mr. Chairman, in 2 simple sentences, my vision for the Ministry of Information is to position it as a lead government organization in providing accurate, timely, and truthful information for the citizenry, and also to collect feedback for informing government decisions on the governance processes.
I worked with you at the Transition Committee and probably along the line with the Honorable Kojo Nkrumah. And when we got to accreditation of journalists for the inaugural event, there was this talk of foreign media being charged. In a liberalized democracy, local or foreign, should the media pay in order to cover on this?
Mr. Chairman, local journalists should not pay, and indeed do not pay, per my understanding, for accreditation. I understand that the convention now, and I stand to be corrected, Honorable Okujeto was in the ministry, is that if you are a foreign journalist coming into our country, you are required to go to the Ministry of Information and register your presence and pay a certain fee. Now, my understanding is that that fee is what they call a facilitation fee, because sometimes you need letters to be written for you in order to facilitate your entry to certain places around our country. And so they use that money. It is 500 cedis, as far as I know, that will aid you to. So to the extent that the ministry makes some expenditure in facilitating the foreign journalist work, I think that the fee would be justified.
Chairman, is that not why you have a budget dedicated to the Ministry of Information, and foreign journalists abroad create an impression of an extortionate state, where in Ghana you have to extort money from a foreign journalist for him to operate? Will you review this position?
Mr. Chairman, if the entire government machinery is in place, it is a matter that I intend to bring to the attention of the government. A discussion will be had, and I'm sure the superior view will prevail. Whatever view prevails at that time, I'll be prepared to go by it. If the government wants a revocation, that's what we shall do.